School buses. On a two-way street or highway, all drivers moving in either direction must come to a full stop for any stopped school bus displaying a stop signal. You must remain stopped until all children are clear and the bus stop signal has been withdrawn. The only exception is if you're on a divided highway and moving in the opposite direction of the school bus and there is a raised median, a physical barrier, or an unpaved space of at least 5 feet separating you from the school bus. Emergency vehicles. That means law enforcement, fire engines, ambulances, and other emergency vehicles using sirens or flashing lights. Pull over to the closest edge of the roadway right away and stop until the emergency vehicle has passed. Do not block intersections. Now, sometimes it's hard to believe, but there are actually vehicles on the road that have more important places to go than you do. Validation question number 19 is A. Large trucks. In general, trucks take longer than cars to stop because of their size. Trucks have a much larger blind spot than a car. So, if you're following or riding next to the truck, make sure that the truck driver sees you in his or her side mirrors. Remember, too, that trucks and commercial vehicles make very wide turns. When you are behind a truck that's turning, you should stay well out of its way and don't proceed forward until it's completed its turn. Pedestrians. It is the motorist's responsibility to do everything possible to avoid colliding with pedestrians, bicyclists, skaters, and skateboarders. Motorists must always yield to pedestrians. And this is very important because pedestrians can be very unpredictable. They don't always cross the street at crosswalks. They could step off the curb suddenly. They may not be watching where they're going. Or you have people near parked cars getting into or out of a parked car, and they just swing the door open without paying attention to traffic. You always have to keep an eye out anywhere there might be moving bodies near the street. Look far enough ahead while you're driving to anticipate any pedestrians trying to cross the street. And by the way, you should not forget about pedestrians with impaired vision. When you see someone with a white cane or a guide dog, you must always slow down or stop and yield them the right of way. Now, many blind pedestrians are hit from behind as they cross the street. They're hit by cars that are just turning a corner or where the driver just wasn't paying close enough attention to the road. Always look out for these individuals. Of course, all of what I just said is from one point of view of the driver. If you are the pedestrian, you still have to take responsibility for your own safety. Okay, so let's say I'm Joe Pedestrian. Now, I'd be less confused if I call myself Steve Pedestrian, okay? Now, I cannot just jump out in front of traffic. Just because I have the right of way at the corner doesn't mean that I can just run out in front of cars and yell, "Hey, I got the right of way." I must use the crosswalk, if there is one, and I must allow the oncoming vehicles a chance to see me and yield to me. Motorcycles. It's a lot more dangerous driving a motorcycle than driving a car. The first and most obvious reason for this is that if you get hit or you hit something else on your motorcycle, there's not one thing shielding your body from that roadway. When following a motorcycle, remember that motorcycles have the ability to stop much more quickly than other vehicles in an emergency. That means that following them too closely endangers both your life and the life of the motorcyclist. Bicycles. Persons driving mopeds or bicycles on the roadway have the same rights and duties as motor vehicle drivers. They must obey all traffic controls and signals, and they may be ticketed for traffic violations. But while they may have the same responsibilities as motorists, a bicycle is a lot different than a motor vehicle. Like motorcycles, they offer no protection to the rider in a collision, and they can easily be hidden from a driver's sight by other vehicles or caught in a driver's blind spot. So, you should always be aware of the possibility that a bicyclist is nearby, hidden from your view. When you are sharing the road with a bicycle, there are many things you can do to minimize the risks. First, make the bicyclist aware of your intentions. Signal well ahead of time if you're planning to stop, make a turn, or change lanes. If you're driving behind a cyclist, increase your following distance and give them space to maneuver. Do not try to pass a cyclist until you have plenty of room to do so. Anticipate potential problems for the cyclist on the roadway ahead. Puddles, potholes, or wet or rough surfaces could cause them to veer dangerously or go into a skid. Keep in mind also that there are some bicyclists who may ignore their responsibility to obey all traffic laws. They can behave unpredictably, and you must be prepared for their sudden maneuvers or inattention to traffic signals.
This is the end of Section 2. Please stop the program and access the network.